we're ready to go. Okay, here we go. So this morning, let's clarify what freedom of flow really means to us and in our lives. It means to have a consistent, regular, abundant flow of prosperity in and through our lives so that we have the freedom to share and the freedom to express our gifts in this world. We have the freedom to have, be, and do that which makes our hearts sing. Because all of that is God ordained. That is our birthright. It is our birthright. We have to claim it. We have to believe it. Because as we've discovered, we've been talking about abundance most of this month. If we are struggling to make ends meet, to pay the bills, to figure it all out, just as that beautiful sharing that was talked about this morning, she believed in herself. She did something about it, and all is well. She got in that flow of freedom, and that's what we're speaking of today. So if we're in that struggling mode, it really blocks us expressing our gifts. This life that we're living that really desires to express through and as us. That's what this teaching is all about. That's why it's so empowering. I want to share a quote that I shared before from St. Francis Bacon. Money is a good servant, but a bad master. Always remember that. Because I want to make absolutely clear that this month is not about making money our master. That's a big mistake, our God, as many people do. But rather, making money a servant. A good and faithful servant. We use money to make it work through us, for us. And we've had amazing, deep experiences so far this month. We've had a lot of them. And today we continue by asking the question, deep down, way down inside of you, do you believe you deserve? Are you good enough? Worthy enough? Whatever enough you might have in your subconscious and conscious mind to have the freedom that a consistent, ongoing, abundant flow of good in your life offers. That's something that we, take it as a meditation. Do I really feel that I deserve all this good? And here's a quick answer to that question. Do you have enough money to share your gifts in the way that makes your heart sing, and that you have plenty to share and spare, and to do all of those things that you really want to do? If the answer is yes, then congratulations. That means that you believe you deserve it. What we think and feel shows up in our life. So take a look at how your life is looking right now. Maybe some adjustments, maybe not. Maybe some adjustments. And I know this is absolutely true, because when I had to make abundance too, but I had to make adjustments in my life, and I just stepped out and I let the universe really take care of me. I practiced all these teachings that we have. So they're not just a bunch of words. It's a way to live life and to empower you. So we take our belief in our worth, our belief in our value, our belief in our deservedness from our experience and what we've been told. And that's where we get the idea of our innate worth, our innate value, our innate deservedness. How we've been brought up, what was told to us over and over again. and to override it if it didn't serve us. A fundamental principle that we teach in New Thought belief system is that we deserve the riches of the universe. Simply because of who we are, each and every one of us, we deserve all the good that we can embody. We absolutely do. Ernest Holmes, Dr. Ernest Holmes, in this thing called You, great book, my favorite book by Ernest Holmes, he said this, and this is on page 55 if you have the book. God is right where I am. God is what I am. All that God is mine now. I enter into a conscious possession of this divine allness, the eternal, universal bounty, this perfect reality right here today. I know that it is manifested in my life right now. That's a great little book. If you don't have it, I would highly suggest that you do a reading out of that book every day. I want to offer you a teaching story. So we're all going to have like story time. And this is like a story that you would tell a child, and it's really great to tell a child, but it's good to tell ourselves also. So we're going to have a rich lesson of innate deservability that we really have and what the universe really has to offer us. So this is a story by Hans Christian Andersen called The Ugly Duckling. The old mother duck sighed. She had 6 eggs that already had hatched, and that's a brood of 6 of the finest ducklings you ever want to see. But the 7th egg refused to hatch. It was a bigger egg than the others had been. Perhaps it needed more time, so the mother sat on the nest longer and covered that 7th egg. She started to worry and ask herself, why won't my 7th egg hatch? She really was just beginning to think that she would have to leave this last egg and tend to the other 6 ducklings who were running around and, getting very rambunctious. At last, she heard a tapping from the inside of that egg, which told her that the 7th baby was about to be born. She stood aside and watched. All at once, the shell shattered, and out popped this little head with this little neck. Mother duck gasped. The baby wasn't a bit like the other babies, like her other beautiful 6 yellow fluffy ducklings. This one had a long neck, and its feathers were rather dirty looking. It was ugly, but still, this is a sad story, but it's got a good end. Still, the mother's duck's baby, she was still the mother of this little duck. So, being a mother, she fussed over it lovingly while its feathers dried out. Then she ushered it out into the sunshine to play with the other 6 brothers and sisters. The ugly duckling waddled shyly toward them. But when they saw him coming, they all stopped quacking and stared. Then they turned their backs and ran away. Mother Duck pretended not to notice their unkindness. Come, children. She led the way to the pond with all the little yellow ducklings following in a line behind her, and the ugly duckling bringing up the rear. They all splashed around in the water, all of them. The ugly duckling swam the best, which didn't please the other 6. He tried to join in their games, but they swam away from him just because he looked so different from all of them. He was so ugly. At the end of the day, it was a very sad day, and the lonely little duckling, at the end of the week, he felt still worse. Nobody wanted him. Apart from his mother, who bravely tried to act as if he were no different from the others. His mother was the only friend he had, and he loved her dearly. Then there came a day when he tried to be friendly to an old duck who promptly attacked him. Of course, his mother flew to his rescue, and the old duck, he pecked on the mother cruelly. And before she fled to the shelter of the reeds, the ugly duckling was dreadfully upset. His dear mother was hurt. Nobody wanted him. And now, because of him, they were turning upon her too. He made his way down to the water's edge with a tear in his eye. He waved goodbye to his family and his mother. They didn't know that he was going away, never to return. By now, he was growing big and strong. Even if he was still so ugly and managed to find enough to eat, but still nobody would have anything to do with him. And if he saw other creatures coming, he would hide until they had passed. One day, he hid among the reeds at a lakeside, far from home. A flock of swans swam by. He thought, they are the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen. How wonderful it would be to be like them. He shed a tear in the water. Then winter came, with the cold and the rain, and he had a very hard time indeed with no shelter from this cruel weather. But somehow he managed on his own until spring came. At last it was so lovely, and he was so glad to be alive, even though he was very lonely. One fine morning, he was swimming out on the lake when he heard a voice behind him say, "Hello, friend." He turned around quickly, and there were swans. "Hello," he said. "We are pleased to see you," they said. They were actually friendly to him. He just couldn't believe it. Then one of them said, "Why are you alone? Why don't you swim with us?" "May I? May I really?" he stammered. "Why not?" came the reply. "You're a swan, aren't you?" Then he looked down at his reflection in the water and was amazed. He was really a swan. During the winter, all those drab feathers had fallen away, and he was shiny white, graceful swan. So he swam away with the other swans, and he lived happily ever after. The hero of our story initially thought to himself, "I have to be like everyone else and to fit in order to be worthy." And to be worthy of, and you can fill in the blank. For him, it was love and acceptance. Maybe we felt like this before. We didn't fit in, many of us. That's why we're in New Thought, because we really didn't fit in with traditional religions. So try to be like them, it doesn't work. Just like it didn't work for the ugly duckling. He wasn't ugly, he was a beautiful swan, right? So he tried to be like his brothers and sisters, the little yellow, fluffy, cute ducks. He accepted and believed their criticism, and he endlessly tried to please them. He basically said to them, "You think I'm ugly? I agree. If you say I'm not a good swimmer because I swim faster than you, then I'll swim slower. I'm going to be like you every way I possibly can. And I'm going to accept your criticism and your opinions of me. But of course, ultimately, that didn't work very well. To illustrate what can happen when we accept and believe others' criticism and endlessly try to please them. Eventually, the swan decided that the life he was living was not for him. He swam away by himself. Maybe some of you left situations with nowhere, really, that you knew to go, but you left very courageously because you didn't fit in. In this life, it sometimes takes great courage to be a swan. It is who we are. We are each and every one of us beautiful swans. We don't have to look like everyone else. We don't have to be like everyone else. In this life, it takes great courage. It takes courage to rise above what you've been told and how you may have been treated. It takes great courage. It takes courage to rise up out of old habit thoughts, those old self-defeating thoughts and concepts about ourselves. You are already a swan. I like that. But you don't believe it. The ducklings are actually not outside of you any longer. They are in you. They are all those little thoughts. And those little thoughts that quack around your head, and they don't like you, they dislike you, they tell you everything that's wrong with you. And they quack at you on a regular basis. And again, it takes great courage to rise above those ego thoughts that are quacking in our head. It takes great courage to rise above appearances and to know that you are mightier than any condition and any circumstance. It takes courage, just like the swan had, to believe in yourself. But you can, you really can, because you are in consciousness, in conscious partnership with God. And God is this infinite energy, this field of potentiality that we speak of. That's the name we give this field. God is one of the many names. You are in conscious relationship then with God. You can have the courage to do all these things. And here's some more words that help us from this thing called You by Dr. Ernest Holmes. He wrote, "The power of God is my power. The strength of God is my strength. The presence of God is my presence. The presence of the mind of God is my mind. The freedom of God is my freedom." So here's the swan's list to freedom. Give yourself permission to be you. Unique, special, and divine, each and every one of us. No one is alike in this room, except they're all part of this infinite field. There's only oneness. So, but we're unique. We are unique. Realize that you have been created by this divine energy, this infinite energy, to do something special and unique, even if you haven't fully hatched out of your shell yet. Might still be scratching that shell or just peeking your head out. I remember in my 40s, it's like I had, people thought she did this, she did that. Oh, she teaches martial arts, she's doing that for 25, 30 years. And she's a mother, and she's this, and it was like something within me was like, I am empty. I don't feel that I have a purpose. Everyone around me thought I had a great purpose. Thought I accomplished a lot. I didn't. Maybe you can relate to that. And it wasn't until I had the courage to follow a calling that led me into studying these beautiful teachings, led me into teaching, led me into an incredible life. And then look, 14 years later, here we are at Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center. I didn't plan any of this. Something did. That was the uniqueness. That was the uniqueness within me in front of the microphone, because I was always in front of the microphone. Anyone that knew me as a child knows. I think I was born in front of a microphone. So my purpose is the microphone. No. So for us, we all have these kinds of stories to step out of that shell, to break it open and to be our glorious selves. Refuse to focus on limitations of your self-concept, but rather focus on God's concept of you. And this is also from this thing called Jude 74. The Spirit never rejects me, so I accept myself. I know there is nothing in me that can condemn or be condemned. There is nothing in me that can judge or be judged. I realize my center in my divine mind. I know that I am one with all the good there is. I am one with all the power there is. I am one with all the freedom there is. Gotta claim it, gotta believe it. And so I'll question them this morning. Do you really deserve to have freedom of flow? The flow that freedom provides. And the answer is absolutely yes. You gotta believe that. You are entitled to have that freedom from anything that might feel like a chain or hold us back. Eric Butterworth, great New Thought writer and teacher in spiritual economics, wrote, "Let go of the feelings of unworthiness, attitudes that's such a detrimental influence upon human consciousness. Claim your entitlement. I am a child of the universe," he said, "endowed with the fullness of all good, a child of the universe." You can get that into your consciousness. And then the offspring, you're not just the offspring of your parents, he wrote, a product of the times, but a child of infinite creative flow, entitled to as constant support as the lilies of the field. Those are words of truth. Those are absolutely, embrace them. Embrace them. Believe them, live them, and you, who may have thought that you were an ugly duckling, you are really a swan. I love that. And that swan you will give yourself then the gift of a great deal of freedom. So here's a little acronym to remember that. It's SWAN. S, someone. W, worthy of. A, abundant. N, now. Someone worthy of abundance now. That's you, that beautiful swan. So instead of doing a closing prayer, I'm going to do affirmations. So I ask you to take these in. You can close your eyes or not. These are words of absolute truth. God is right where I am. God is what I am. The Spirit never rejects me, so I accept myself. I know there is nothing in me that can condemn or be condemned. There is nothing in me that can judge or be judged. I realize my center in the divine. I know that I am one with all the good there is. All that God has is mine now. I enter into the conscious possession of this divine allness, this universal bounty, this perfect reality today. I know that it is manifesting in my life. The power of God is my power. The strength of God is my strength. The presence of God is my presence. The mind of God is my mind. And the freedom of God is my freedom, right here and right now. And so it is.
So it is.